Welcome to Sam Outside. I'm Sam, and I'm outside taking a moment to notice what's happening in the world around me. And more specifically, it's got me thinking about the topic of climate change. And as much as there are so many who are either in denial about the concept or just are not affected by the impact, I notice it daily. And I'm noticing it a little bit more today on my daily walk, as there is a abundance of litter on the ground. Uh, Nature relies on a balance. It takes generations of trees and other plants to adapt to soil, temperature, wind, snow, water. So many factors affect the success of trees, shrubs, plants, wildlife, birds, fish, insects, all these things. And in my brief time on this planet, especially after spending 30 years in camping and outdoor education, fostering a love and appreciation, stewardship for the natural world, I have noticed some changes. And it has more to do with what's happening when it comes to having weather events. All right. They are becoming a little more frequent. They're becoming a little more intense. Now, what I'm seeing specifically in my forest is that when we have these small microbursts, it's a short-lived event, but it's intense. So the wind speeds are just a little bit more than normal, and they come not from a normal direction. Most trees and plants grow according to prevailing winds, according to exposure, and they'll orient themselves and they'll produce where there is more light, more heat, more moisture, so many contributing factors. But when we get these microbursts that can sometimes come out of a different direction, it just topples trees over. There's nothing in their life that has created root systems or wood fibers to fight a force that intense. But at this time of year, with the bud burst being our leaf right now is about 75%. What's on the ground are a lot of buds and not fully developed leaves. So there's enough activity in the canopy to knock a whole season's worth of growth off of many of our young trees. And on my own property, we're noticing the difference in even small amounts of water and given vernal ponds. Now, vernal ponds are a very important small microhabitat for so many insects, salamanders, and woodland frogs. And they've adapted to rely on these vernal ponds because it eliminates predators. So they won't lay their eggs and they won't come and have their young in large open bodies of water like a lake, where there's just so many aquatic and terrestrial predators that will come in and feed off of the food sources that are already there. So the vernal ponds are supposed to last through the season of what it takes to for those larvae to mature to adult development. But with climate change, we are not getting the rainfall that we used to at the time that we should, and the dry spells are lasting longer, and the heat is a little more intense, drying up the vernal ponds to the point where small woodland creatures are not able to fully develop, which is an important food source. It's a foundation for an entire ecosystem. And the same thing happens with a lot of our trees, depending on where they're growing. If they need wet feet, they're not getting it. If they are needing a certain temperature, it's sometimes too dry and too hot. So just when they need it the most, when they're in the developing stage, they don't get it, right? We see it all the time in our own development as humans. If we don't get some of our fundamental needs met, we're at a young developing stage. It just doesn't set the human body up for success as an adult. So I'm seeing the signs of that in the forest all around me, in the plant life, the insect life, the birds, the animals, the amphibians, the reptiles, all of it. It's all interconnected. And I live quite closely to it. And it's got my family thinking about not only what are we going to plant on our small acreage, but how are we going to keep it alive, which affects our ability to bring water and to provide the nutrients for the soil. So it affects little daily routines like composting and how we recycle and what we're going to plant for our pollinators. I know a couple of people who have bee colonies, And everyone I've talked to this season has lost 60 to 70, 80% of their bee colonies, and that's due to how they overwinter because of the climate change that happens. We get warm spells and extreme cold spells that quickly follow, producing moisture in those hives and creates frost and just kills what is otherwise adapted to be a constant insulated state. So without those pollinators, it affects the food source and the foundation of those producers, which feed our primary consumers, our herbivores, and our third tier consumers being our predators. So for those of us who are nature lovers, we start to notice small changes. And after 10, 15 years of tracking those changes, there is an impact. And most people feel powerless to do anything about it, but there are changes you can make at home. It starts with being aware, all right? And that might mean spending more time outside in nature and just noticing those things and doing it year after year after year after year, so you can yourself start to notice and track changes, even just watching the weather, all right? There are little indicators as what the traditional daytime high, daytime low, the amount of precipitation that falls in any given week, all that is tracked over our current history. So there are changes, and it's affecting us locally, not just globally. And there's a cost to that, and we see it in our grocery bills. We see it in our quality of life. So if there are times you feel like there's nothing you can do about it, start to think about what you can do in your own home, what you can do in your own neighborhood, your own community, and then start to recognize that it's not just something that happens someplace else on a large scale. It's happening in your own yard, and it's affecting your own well-being, physical, mental, emotional, financial. So think about little things you can do to improve the natural world where you are, even just in your own home and around your own home. Every little bit helps. So no mow May, it's a thing, it's helping. And we're seeing communities and property owners leave what they can for the bees and moths and other pollinators. And they're making choices about how they can use their small chunk of land, even if it's an apartment balcony, to grow something real and save $1 or $2. It all adds up, especially over an entire lifetime. So spend more time in nature, notice, be aware, ask questions, be curious, and then think about the little things you can start to do. But being aware of these changes and our impact is a big step. So please go outside, smell, listen, breathe, feel, and start to make changes. We need this place. We need you. So thanks for watching. Appreciate that. Talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.